Alright guys, so in this video we're gonna focus on creating the projects list, right? So all the projects for this specific client, for every specific client, is gonna be displayed on this list. So the first thing we're gonna need is to create a new sheet where we're gonna store the project data, right? So we create a new one here and we call it projects. Now on these, on this tab right here, on this table right here, we're gonna need the project ID. So this is going to be a unique ID for each project. We're going to need a project name, which as the field suggests, this is going to be the name of the project. We're going to need the client's email, which is going to be a way to relate a project to a client, right? And we also need a description for the project. Start date, so this is when the project is going to start. The due date, this is when the project is due. We're gonna need a progress. This is gonna help us create like a progress bar. Some of these are optional, guys. I mean, if you don't want a progress bar, then you don't need that field, you know. Then we just make these bold, just so we know that that's the beginning, that's the first row. Let me check if that's all correct. Yep. And then let's go back to our glide here. And what we want to do, guys, is add a component, which is going to be in, where is it? Inline list, right? So this is going to be a list where we're going to have all the projects displayed. Right now, you can see that this is clients because the source of data is the client's sheet, but we don't want that. We want to change that. We actually need to refresh this so it pulls in the new table, and we want to change this to projects because we want to get the data from that table. Now, in order to make this data dynamic and display the projects linked to each customer, because we don't want to put a list with every single project we have here. We want to put the list of the projects related to that specific user that is currently logged in. Now, in order to do that, we need to go to features, and here we need to create a filter that is going to be client email is there's no signed in user. So what we want to do actually, guys, we want to create a row here. Let's make a test project. Client email, I'm going to do mictest@gmail.com. Description, just the test project. Start date, due date, progress 40, and then image, we'll do that later. So just put some test data there, guys, and now if we refresh this, it should actually allow us to create a new filter with a signed in. There we go. So we want to filter the data that's displayed on the projects list based on the user that's currently signed in. So this is the same as we did before with this field right here. So now we are getting the projects for that user. Now we want to go back to layout and we want to change the label to projects. This is not clients, this is projects. And now let's test it out. Let's add to test project 2. Let's put some test at gmail.com. Just some random stuff there. Okay, let's test this out. So let's refresh this. Now the first thing we need to test, guys, is that the second project doesn't appear, and it doesn't. But now if we log in with some, we get the second project, right? And that's totally correct. We get the second project and we don't get the first project. So that's 100% what we want. Now, so that's it, guys. This is the list. But now we want to set up what's going on once the user clicks on the project, right? So once the user clicks on the project, we want to set up the page where the information is displayed for that project, right? So basically we now clicked on the project. This is the project page, right? So this is what we're going to set up now. So the first thing here, it already populates the page with some data. However, I'm going to delete this because I want to customize it the way I want. We're just going to keep the first component here, which is a title component, and basically this allows you to display some data nicely. So the first the thing I want at the top, guys, is the name of the project. You know, that's the nicest thing to have on the top. Obviously here you can fully customize it in any way you want. You might want to have the email of the client, for example, as the title. I want to have the project name here. I think that's what makes sense right there. And then we want to have a description of the project. So I'm going to click here and select description, right? And then we want to have the progress bar. So here we can't add a progress bar. So we're going to go back and go to components and search for progress bar. So this is going to be the progress bar, and we're going to link this to the progress column, right? So as you can see, guys, the progress column has 40 in it, and this is actually out of 100. So as you can see here, the minimum is 0, the maximum is 100. So you can go in here and add a number based on how much of the project you have actually completed. This is just an indicator for your client, like a nice progress bar indicator to show them how much of the project you were able to complete so far. So let's make this like 70, and let's refresh. There we go, right? So this changes according to what's on the spreadsheet. Now, the next thing we want to add is the start date and the due date. So we're gonna add a separator, and then we're gonna add a basic text. So basic text basically means, guys, that it's not gonna be markdown, so you're not gonna be able to make it a title, but we don't need that. So we're just gonna select start date. I don't know why it makes that an email. Oh, send email action. No, we don't want that. So none. Okay, and then we're gonna add another basic text below that, which is gonna be the due date. I don't know, for some reason it just makes them makes the action to send an email, but we don't want that. So so yeah, that's that section right there, guys. Now the next part, let's add another line. So separator, and now we have the client's email. So what we want to do is we want to search for again, sorry, yeah, this is going to be a basic text, which is going to be it's going to display the client's email. But since this is the client, we don't want to, I don't know why it does that. It actually, the first time it ever does that to me. So basically the idea, guys, here is that you can actually also have actions. So if you want the action there to be send email, what's going to happen is that when the user clicks on that, they're going to be redirected to their email app, and they're going to be able to send an email to their email, basically. So you get it. We don't want that there. So we make that none. So after that we have another separation line. So you get it, guys. Like, you can completely set this up in the way you want. Like, you don't have to follow my exact template. And then we have the file upload feature, which is actually going to be a form button, right? So there are two buttons here. Make sure to click the form button, and I'm going to show you why in a second. So we're going to name this file upload. So now, guys, here basically the user is going to be able to upload files for the project, right? So usually when you're working on a project, you usually want to receive some files from your customers, right? So this is going to be the section where the customer is going to be able to upload files. So when we click on that, this is actually going to be a form. Now, before we create this, we actually need to create a new sheet, which we're going to call files. And in this sheet, we're going to need a couple of fields. So we're going to need a submission name. So this is going to be the name of the submission. We're going to need a project ID, and this is the way that we're going to link the file to a specific project. We're going to need the file, and then we're going to need a submission date, right? Let's make this bold, right? So now let's go back to our form here, and we want to select, actually let's refresh the sheet, and let's go back here. Now we want to select the destination to be files, right? And here we want to allow the user to enter the submission name, right? And we can actually rename that to name here. We want them to upload a file. However, that's not going to be a text entry. We're going to delete that, and we're actually, let's delete the submission date too, and we're actually going to add a new component, which is going to be a file picker. So this is going to allow the user to select the file from their system, from the phone, to upload there, right? And we're going to name this, let's change the label to choose file, right? And we're also going to make this required, so they're not going to be able to submit this form if they haven't uploaded a file, which I think it's pretty fair there. We actually want them to upload a file, and we also want them to enter a name for the submission, so we know what it is. So we're also going to make that required. Now, before we allow the user to submit this form, we actually also want to add some hidden data, right? So this is data that's going to be passed in to our table there, but we're not going to make the user enter that data. We're actually going to receive that data based on some factors, right? So as you can see here, we are going to need a submission date. Right, submission date is going to be the current date and time when that user clicks on the submit button. So that's going to be a special value here. So we go to components, and then we go down and search for special values, and we're going to select current date and time. So this is a hidden field that is going to pass in the current date and time to the submission date, right? So we want that, and we also want a project ID, but the project ID, guys, is actually gonna be the project ID from the current column. So this is a little bit confusing. Let me explain what I mean. So right here, we have pulled in the data for this specific project, right? However, on our table here, every project has a unique ID. And this is something you're going to be entering manually, because you as the business owner, you're going to be creating these projects, right? You're going to be manually creating these projects. So here, every time you're going to be adding a project ID, right? So if I create a new project, this is going to be called 3, and I'm going to call this web development project, right? So you get the idea. You're going to be entering the project IDs you want for each project. But now here, when we're pulling in the data for a specific project, this column, this data, is also hidden behind this page. And when we click on file upload, we're actually going to be able to search. We're actually going to be able to let me just go and enter this component again. We're actually able to find the project ID of this specific project, right? It's right here. So you can see all the fields for this specific project we are allowed to use them. So we're gonna take that and we're gonna pass it in. Again, this is a hidden field that's gonna get passed in, and then when a new file submission is made, that project ID is going to be there. Therefore, this is going to allow us to know which project a file is linked to, right? I hope that makes sense, guys. So this is pretty much our form for the file submission. So the next part, guys, okay, the last part here, we want to have comments. So I think it's going to be a really cool idea to allow the user to write some comments, you know, about the project. So maybe they reviewed the project, maybe you send them some milestone of the project and they want to write some comments about it, or maybe they want to ask you some questions about the project. They can just comment on it. So what we want to do is go to components, let's add a separator, and then let's add a new component, which is going to be comments, right? So topic for this, add project name, and I'm going to explain when we're going to start testing the app. I'm going to show you exactly what these means, because right now I'm not able to add a comment here. So we're gonna discuss this more when we actually start testing the app, right? So just select project name here as the topic data. So that's it, guys. This is it. We have now created the project page. We have now also created the project list here on the dashboard. So now the next part, we're actually gonna focus on the invoices list here. But now one thing that I missed here is actually the icon. So let me show you how to add an icon there. So let's go back to projects. And this is the last field right here, which is going to be the image. Now what I like to do, guys, I went to flaticon.com, which is a really nice website which allows you to search through a huge list of icons, and I found this icon right here. You can I searched for projects and I came across this one. I clicked on this one and then I found where is it, this one right here, which I think looks pretty cool. So what you want to do is right click on the icon of your choice, open it in a new tab, and then just copy that URL and just paste it on the images, under the images column. And what that's going to do is when we reload the sheet, what we can do is go to inline list, and then as the image we can set it to that field. There we go. So that's the image thumbnail for that project, you know. So this is just like a little feature there, so it doesn't look empty. So that's it for this video, guys. In the next video, as I said, we're going to be focusing on the invoices.